guys, it's Angelo, and today we're having a look at the Shadow Priest rotation in patch 8.3. With a new patch comes a new way to play your class and spec most of the time, and this is true for the Shadow Priest to a certain degree, especially now with essences and Azerite traits in the game. From more tools to achieve high AoE damage, to a rotation which can be altered depending on your essence use, we definitely have a lot to cover. In this guide, we'll go over the Shadow Priest's current and most effective DPS rotation and spell priorities, as well as some interesting gameplay changing tips and tricks to have you guys topping the meters in no time, and to help you improve. Please keep in mind that nobody is born an expert and every player does things slightly different, which of course makes us all unique, but also entails that you will perhaps see things here that are new to you, or perhaps you have not seen done this way before. Now, that being said, and without keeping you guys waiting for any longer, let's go right ahead and have a look. Now, if you are new to the Shadow Priest, I'll give you a rundown of the idea behind our rotation, so that we're all on the same sheet of music. Your goal is to get into Void Form as quickly as possible, and to do as much damage as you can while inside, more specifically, keeping your Void Form up for as long as possible. This is important because the higher Void Form you play, the more you will benefit from multiple effects, the most prominent ones being Lingering Insanity and Chorus of Insanity. This is essentially done by using three simple spells: Void Bolt, Mind Blast, and which is talented into Shadow Word Void of course, and Mind Flay. Your goal is to use these spells in the best order to keep up your Void Form for the longest possible period of time. In order to get into Void Form, you'll want to generate Insanity. In a single target situation, you want to open up a fight with Shadow Word Void, then dot up your target with Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain, and then use your second charge of Shadow Word Void. After this, you will want to fill with Mind Flay until your Mind Blast is off cooldown again, which is when you'll use it again, and then fill with Mind Flay once more. If you're not using any Insanity generating talents which are active abilities like Shadow Crash or Dark Void, this will be your rotation until you are ready to cast Void Eruption, which is when you can enter Void Form. With Legacy of the Void, this is at 60 Insanity, and with any other level 100 talent, which most of the time you will probably not use, this point will be at 90 Insanity. If, however, you are using talents which grant you Insanity, like Dark Void or Shadow Crash, you'll want to use these on cooldown in order to push yourself to enter Void Form a lot faster. In multi-target situations, you will most likely always be using these talents, but in a single target situation, where you may be running talents such as Twist of Fate and possibly Shadow Word Death for absolute and counter speed kills, you will be limited to Shadow Word Void and Mind Flay most of the time, and also keep in mind that you will most likely only be using Shadow Crash for heavy AoE situations, and only in Mythic Plus. Now, your priorities are listed on screen now and are relatively self-explanatory. Follow these priorities in both single target and multi-target scenarios and you will be off perfectly fine. And now, even though these priorities hold true for multi-target and single target situations, in multi-target scenarios, and depending on which talents you play, your rotation will look a little bit different. Again though, your goal is to get into Void Form quickly. When playing with Shadow Crash, Dark Void or Dark Ascension in multi-target situations, you shouldn't just spam them on cooldown, and instead you should wait for your enemies to group up, and then cast them. Try aiming your Shadow Crash towards the biggest group of enemies, and take into consideration that your tank could be moving the targets in a moment, or the targets could move themselves. Dark Void and Dark Ascension work similarly, only this time you will want to directly target the most centered enemy and then cast. The reasoning behind this is that both Dark Ascension and Dark Void work on a range indication based off of your current target, meaning both Dark Ascension and Dark Void will spread onto any enemy surrounding your target up to a certain range. For Dark Ascension, this is 10 yards, for Dark Void this is also 10 yards, and this is also true for your regular cast of Void Eruption. Mind Seer will replace your Mind Flay during the time when all other spells are on cooldown once you have 3 or more enemies in front of you and in range. Mindseer generates a little over a third of Mind Flay's insanity per targeted hits, meaning that once you're at 3 targets, you will generate exactly 1 insanity more than you would with Mind Flay on a single target. Once you hit 4 enemies, you will generate 5 more insanity and 5 more for every target you hit per Mindseer tick. Good, now that being discussed, let's take a look at when exactly you'll be using certain essences. Your essence use will boil down to 3 situations, and you will only want to use one of these for that specific situation as your major most of the time, so as your on-use essence. For a single target, you'll be going with Condensed Life Force, using it at or around 18 stacks of Void Form just after you use your Shadow Fiend in order to maximize its damage output while assuring you remain in Void Form for most of its duration. For cleave situations, so mostly where you will have 3 targets to damage or more, you will be playing with Memory of Lucid Dreams, also using it at or around 18 stacks of Void Form or more, depending on how comfortable and precise you can be in a given encounter. For AoE situations, you'll probably want to play with the essence of the Focusing Iris, and you will try to align it with every ad spawn. I say probably because this essence brings us to our optional essences, which can be strong in very specific situations. Purification Protocol is a strong minor essence for later fights where lots of aberrations spawn, like the Hive Mind, the Carapace of Enzoth, or Ny'alotha Corruptor himself. And it's also strong here as a major essence. Ultimately, the choice of course is up to you and what your raid requires. Worldvane Resonance is strong when 4 or more allies in your group use it as well, as it provides a strong intellect buff throughout the fight. It can also be used as a major, but more so for the early bosses, which will die incredibly fast after a couple of weeks. Blood of the Enemy, on the other hand, can be used as a major essence for AoE fights, or fights which have decent ad spawns, like the Hive Mind or the Carapace of Enzoth, however, only if you do not currently have any other option to use. So far, so good. When it comes to our rotation, this is the essence of the Shadow Priest. Patch 8.3 has some very interesting encounters for us to play, where playing a clean, strong rotation is certainly an important skill to master, even more so than during patch 8.2, as we have to play a lot better now than previously due to our recent nerfs, in order to compete with others. What do you guys think? Do you like our current rotation and our spell priorities? What would you like to see changed? Be sure to let me know in the comments below or join our Discord, where discussions like these about all priest specs take place on a daily basis, and on top of that, get the chance to enter giveaways, be in direct contact with me and countless other priests, and much more. If this video was helpful to you, a like would be much appreciated, and if you want to stay updated on my content in the future, feel free to subscribe. Special thanks to all of my patrons over at Patreon, and thank you all for watching. Now, have a good one, my friends, and I will see you all in the next one.